More
So
like
he's
a
your
demon.
friend.
And we no.
Well,
No,
arguably.
Arthanis' friend.
Yes.
I'm gonna go with like demon spawn from hell who really doesn't like us but tolerates us. Kind of a piece of shit, if I'm being honest.
Huh? Doesn't sound very nice.
No, no.
Hmm.
And
So
yet he
he's
brings us closest to the Great Enlightenment.
Yeah, because he keeps almost getting us killed. That is not a bonus for a lot of us.
remember when he jumped out that window?
That was
No,
actually entertaining.
I didn't remember that at all. Is that why I have a king in my name?
I just pat Hazel on the shoulder. We'll talk more about this later.
All right, all right.
Well, if we're gonna be traveling, I mean, Techno's just gonna hop into a cart or something. He's just gonna spend like, how long is this trip gonna take? About like an hour or so, or are
It's
we
gonna
resting
take
here?
It's gonna take about 36 hours.
Okay, well in that case, regardless of whether we're resting here at the temple or whether we're traveling on the road, Techno's gonna spend some time utilizing his right tool for the job to create a set of Smith's tools.
Noted.
And then he's also going to take some time to craft an Eldritch cannon.
What's
Oh.
that?
So Eldritch cannons are fun. They're little things that I can utilize. Basically, they're a magical cannon. Utilizing either wood carvers or smith's tools, I can take an action to magically create a small or tiny cannon in an unoccupied space within 5 feet of me. A small Eldritch cannon occupies its space. A tiny one can be held in the hand. Once I create a cannon, I cannot do so again until I finish a long rest or until I expend a spell slot to create one. I can only have one cannon at a time. Hell yeah.
So I applied a long rest, and I believe the party was wanting to. And again, you guys can go any direction you want, but his recommendation, especially if you're chasing Lomric, is Zeller goes because that's where he took him. Is that what you guys want to do? I applied the long rest, whether it's here or on the road.
Long rest on the road to Zolargos, I think.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, after packing up and heading out, you guys travel. I put the Eldritch Cannon on, I'll get a better. If you want to send me a token for the Eldritch Cannon, I can add it in. But right now, it's just an E. You guys travel.
We could use the same token for Burner because basically that's what I'm going to be just fashioning my Eldritch Cannon after.
Okay.
No.
Burner gets a little brother.
So you guys travel across the open terrain. It's extremely windy, but eventually, after a day and a half, you make your way into or towards the city. So as you're nearing it, about towards the end of the day, probably 2 p.m., 3 p.m., you got a few hours before sundown on the day after, a strange city appears on the horizon. It's nestled in the foothills of a large mountain range that you have been moving almost parallel to. The river to the north and south of it clearly passes directly in the center of it, and the river itself is fairly large and in terms of rivers, as it seems to be fairly swollen. The city itself, as you guys are approaching it, is a patchwork of different architectural styles. You can see that from here. Different metals are used, different stone is used, different coloration of wood. and the styles themselves are incongruous. Colossal monuments stick up above the city, defying description. They tower over some of the smaller buildings, so it's not so much that you have small, medium, large buildings as much as you have small buildings and massive, colossal monuments. One thing that does stand out to all of you is that there's no wall around this city, and it is a huge city. It is definitely a metropolis. The number of people that probably live there are numbering higher than most of the cities those of you who've been to, short of maybe Waterdeep, Baldur's Gate, and the old Neverwinter prior to the catastrophes. And the areas you start moving through, as it sprawls outwards, flow onto the plains for seasonal farmland up and down the banks of both sides of the river. Raiden and his brother Baden take the group around and through a secret passage in the door in the wall. I'm sorry, in the community. It's a tower. It's one of series of towers that ring the settlement, more of like guard towers. They're definitely on the smaller side. They're not any of the colossal monuments. So you can tell that in lieu of a wall, they have these towers where the guards patrol between, and there is a number of towers that aren't in use. And so he essentially moves you up to one of the towers, passes through a side door, because as you move into, you notice that the door is barred from the inside and abandoned. So it looks like somebody barred the door when they closed the tower and then exited via this secret passage. And he tells you that this tower is one of some that were abandoned as the city expanded. He tells you that he recommends that you consider resting here and spending the night. And in the morning, after you hear 3 bells, you can enter the city. There will be no patrols in the area, and as the guards will have just completed the patrol, you will be seen as people who are already approved to be in the city. He doesn't recommend entering the city at night. And once you're able to enter the city and in the morning, you will be largely considered accepted in the city. He suggests you consider looking into lodging first things first in the morning, or at least a place, because these towers are checked every few days via this secret entrance. But if you do need a safe house, this wouldn't be a bad place. It just couldn't be long term because they are checked. He offers one last time before leaving you to answer any questions that you may have.
Could you refer us to a good lodging? And where it might be?
It depends on your tastes.
What's the difference between them?
There are a wide array of qualities in terms of lodgings. There are lodgings in the slums where your names will not be recognized. They will be forgotten as soon as you are mentioned. And there are some in the higher class areas that are much more expensive, and you will be recognized as someone staying there as a high class person.
Ah.
Depends
Would
on
I-
what you're looking for.
Okay. Would I have been able to make an elixir during my long rest?
You can. You would need to roll on a d6, and I can send you that table if you want it, or you can just roll a d6.
D6. Ooh.
So, do you need me to give you that, or do you still have the image I sent you?
I might have to dig for it.
I have it right here. Don't worry about it. Here
Oh,
you go.
okay.
I just didn't want to. So, you can actually save that on one of your hotkeys at the bottom. You can just drag the little wormhole in the top left next to experimental elixir and just drop it on one of your bars.
6. Oh, so the 6 is.
Yep.
Oh. Transformation. Okay, so I can just put a transformation elixir in my inventory.
Yes, I'll drag one over for you.
Thank you. Well, that should be fun.
Anybody else have any questions?
None here.
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. With that, he closes the secret door, indicating there's enough room here for you guys. And with that, he makes it so that you guys can open it from the inside, and he leaves you for the evening.
Hopefully he does not betray us, but I guess we'll find out.
Wait, that's an option?
Surely.
Do you think he would
I don't know.
betray us?
I don't know why he would betray us, but
Don't scare me like that.
Why would you say
we just-
that?
we just don't know. We don't know how these people act. We don't know their cultures. He claimed to be indebted to us, but perhaps now that he's paid his debt, his next actions are of his own will, and that could be negative towards us. We'll find out, right?
He seemed like a very stand-up gentleman to me.
He gave us food.
We did save his brother.
All true, yes. We should take turns to keeping watch, nonetheless, for him and or other potential threats.
I can take watch too.
I'll apply another long rest if you guys would like, but for you, Kazu, as a general rule, the experimental elixir hypothetically only lasts until your next long rest, but a slight modification to the rules is if once you generate one, you can keep that one until it is used.
Oh.
Instead of having you roll every single long rest. Now, if you would like to re-roll after a long rest because you don't like the one you got, that's fine too.
Okay, so I can't really hoard a bunch of elixirs.
Oh well, no, they actually expire after a long rest. I'm just not going. I'm gonna let you keep the one you got.
Okay.
Would that necessarily also apply to the Eldritch Cannon?
No, Eldritch Cannon lasts until it's destroyed.
Okay.
But
The
you
only
can't have more than one.
well, the only reason I asked is because it says it disappears if it's reduced to 0 hit points or after 1 hour. So.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you hypothetically could be required to create these things repeatedly, but again, it's superfluous. If you want to have it, I believe. How long does it take to craft? I forgot.
It takes it either expends one spell slot or you So after you finish a long rest.
So that's really just kind of how we'll approach it.
That
You
that
can
was
create
my
it-
question, is that if we're gonna create an Eldritch Cannon, we're just basically gonna have it around until it gets blown up, basically.
Yeah,
So-
you can do it after a long rest without any resources expended, or you can do it
Yeah.
with at the time. So
All right. I'm just saying we're just going to basically ignore the disappears after 1 hour thing, though. That's my
it-
question.
it's minutia.
Okay. All right.
So with that, I'm going to kind of mention a couple things to you, and then at the beginning of next game, you guys can actually enter the city of Zelargos. So this is going to be something that is going to affect next game. I'll cover it next game as well, but I want to mention it to you. So you're going to be entering an alien city. You are not completely alien. There will be creatures of pretty much every species, all of yours as well. There's lots of things in this city that are familiar. There's a lot of, especially having 12 active gates. So there's a lot of things that you're going to be familiar with, but there's also a lot of alien things in the area. You are able to understand the language. If you guys remember, you had something happen to you when you first came through the gate. You are able to understand the language, but the culture is still different. Acclimation takes time. As you are just entering the city, you're going to suffer a small penalty, and it's going to be an acclimation thing. What it is depending on how you approach it, you're starting with a disadvantage that any geography, history skills you can't use. Obviously, you don't know the history of this place. You can't try to recall history. You don't know the geography, so you can't recall the geography. You can still try to persuade people, things of that nature. And there's going to be what's the word? I apologize. Forgetting the word. Let me pull up a character sheet before proficiency is the word I wanted. So your proficiency bonus towards certain skills, specifically intelligence based, which is your knowledge, are going to not gain that benefit. So just coming in to the city, you're going to have your intelligence based skills operating without your proficiency bonus. That is a temporary thing. So, your knowledge of religion. You will be able to make a religion check, but it will be without your proficiency bonus initially. Your investigation check is going to be another one. You can still make it, it'll be without your proficiency. The reason why is because you don't know the culture of this area. Now, that is not a permanent thing. You have two options to address that. Starts without it. The penalty, obviously your proficiency is +2, is adjusted by 1, so you gain 1 of your proficiency points back after a week spent in Zelargos. Or if you actively spend time doing things in town, trying to get familiar with things and intentionally immersing yourself in the culture, it'll come back at double that. So after 1 week, you can gain half of your proficiency back, or all of it. Now, mind you, that's just for your intelligence skills. There's a couple in there, Arcana, things of that nature. So that's where we're going to end. I will go over that again at the beginning of next game, and you guys will be entering the city. What is worth your time, me mentioning, that I want you guys to know, is thus far, the campaign has been extremely linear. From here forward, it's really up to you, and it's going to become very self-driven. So you guys are going to need to have a goal and a purpose, whether it's find a gate, find someone who is a member of the hegemony, a member of the Accords, whatever the Accords are, learn about these things. That you should, someone, have some notes scribbled down, but find Lomric, kill Lomric, I don't know. Find the person Lomric was looking for. All of this is potential paths. Some of them may be dead ends, but it's going to be up to you to set your goals. And the last thing I'll mention before we end the game is getting home's great, but you were home and then you were brought here. So there's obviously an issue that you may want to kind of, like someone said, if you're going to go there and destroy the gate, if there is a gate, presumably there's a gate, or the ship, that's something you guys are going to need to, just getting home might not solve your problem. You probably need to know how you were taken off the planet to prevent it from happening again. So that is where we're going to end the game this week. And I will
Okay.
see you guys next week.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good.
And
Good
before
game.
you go, here's the city of Zelargosa. Just because I want you to see the map.
Heck yeah. Oh, that's gonna be.
Ooh, is that like it looks like it's like a coliseum or something. Ooh.
No.
Soon the city will be ours.
No.
Oh wow. Oh wow. Empress Kazu. Okay. Emperor Kazu.
Doing that, Kazu.
All right. All right. Good night, everybody. Take it easy.
Good night. Good
Night.
luck.
Night.
Bye all.
Night.
Take care, everyone.